welcome you all for the great and amazing International Day for Youth. With starting that, I would like to share one video to begin with. Here.
Youth engagement is to be active, is to serve your community.
Allowing youth to be a part of the decision-making process by engaging them through technology, through social media.
Is opportunity to contribute to the development of not only their community but also their country at the higher and higher level.
It's about building the future we want together using the most advanced processes that are available.
It's trust. We have to trust the young people the same as we do adults. The future is as much ours than it is the older generations.
Is to volunteer in any association.
Including us in forums such as this so that we have the platform to express the views that matter to us and that goes right across the board for all the issues.
Because without it, the world will collapse, in my opinion.
It's important because youth constitute a great majority of the world. Therefore, when we abandon great majority of participants in the world, we basically lose them. So instead, we should collaborate, youth with the other sectors in the countries.
It's really important because we're the next generation and the change starts right now.
The world has more young people than we've ever had before, and if we're going to sustainably keep building the future that we all desire, we need to ensure that young people are at the beginning and at the end of all the things we do.
We are deciding the future of the young people right now, so it is insane if the young people don't get to decide about the decisions that are going to affect their future the most.
Youth engagement is important because in every single thematic area of policies that need to be made, you can find a way to incorporate youth, and who better to give youth views than the youth.
I think it's through the network, which is huge in UNESCO. I think it's also through all the knowledge and the research that have been done since many years that can contribute to reinforcing the capacity of people.
My project reinforces youth engagement with UNESCO through using the performing arts to allow youth to have an expressive way to talk about the issues that matter to them, through the performing arts, whether it's song, dancing, spoken word, to talk about mental health, human trafficking, and all other issues that are important to the world right now.
It supports young people not only press the silence of my generation in Vietnam, but also advocate for youth empowerment as a top priority for development in my country in the further futures.
By ensuring that the work that we do and the work that UNESCO does has very important impact for not just people in the cities but also in the local communities, and ensuring that everybody benefits from building a prosperous and sustainable world.
The project that I worked on is basically youth-led initiatives, to empower other youth in the world. Therefore, I think it's from youth to youth.
Sometimes when we get together for a really important project, it's not enough to have this desire. We need help for another. So a really huge participant like UNESCO could really make a change.
Great. So once again, I welcome everyone for this great Youth Day, International Youth Day, 12th August. Without further delay, I would like to start by noting down all the high dignitaries, excellencies, majesties, and all protocol observed. Once again, I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Center for SDG Global Education. Thank you so much for joining us today on a very great and a very important day. Reason behind is that why I said important day, because the youth, the future generation. If I take an example about the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, almost 1/3 of all the goals having the youth perspective is talk about the future generation. And that's what we are here today, to celebrate the International Youth Day with the supporting of all our great goodwill ambassadors, all our great high dignitaries, excellencies, majesties, and all protocol observed high excellencies people. We are really thankful for your great support And of course, with that, you have showed a great essence and a great, you can say, support that yes, we all are together to support the future generation, to support our youth that is called the future leaders. Without further delay, now I would like to introduce our first speaker for this session, and that will be Dr. Teresa Martin, Her Excellency Dr. Teresa Martin, who is actually the chairperson of SDG Education. Over to you, Dr. Martin. Please, you can start with now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello to all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen from around the world. Welcome. Thank you all for joining into the 2020 International Day of the Youth. This event is commemorated every year on August the 12th. It was designed for bringing youth issues to the attention of international community and celebrating the potential of youth as partners in today's global society. Bear with me as I give you a brief description of our history. This idea was proposed in 1991 to recognize a day by the young people who were gathered in Vienna, Austria, for the first session of the World Youth Forum of the United Nations system. The forum recommended that an International Youth Day be declared, especially for fundraising and promotional purposes to support the United Nations Youth Fund in partnership with other youth organizations. In 1998, a resolution was given proclaiming that this day, August the 12th, as the International Youth Day. It was adopted by the first session of the World Conference of Ministers responsible for youth, which was hosted by the government of Portugal in cooperation with the United Nations, held in Lisbon on August the 12th of 1998. That recommendation was subsequently endorsed by the 54th session of the General Assembly in its resolution ARES 54-120, entitled Policies and Programs Involving Youth. This was held on December 17th, 1999. The Assembly recommended that public information activities be organized to support the day as a way to promote better awareness of the World Program of Action for Youth that was adopted by the General Assembly in 1996. Security Council Resolution 2250, which was held on December 9th of 2015, on youth, peace, and security represents an unprecedented acknowledgement of the urgent need to engage young peace builders in proclaiming and promoting peace and counter extremism, and clearly positions youth as important partners in global efforts. This year, International Day of the Youth seems most remarkable in the sense that this year is the global community. We are all experiencing a new life called the new normal and COVID-19, which drives this new normal. Secondarily, the 2020 Day of the Youth is currently in the center of the 5th year of the 2030 agenda, with 10 years remaining to the 2030 agenda of the SDG. This again calls for critical evaluation of the SDGs in the life of youth, students, and children, while picturing their engagement to global action. Thirdly, the United Nations is most thoughtful to consider engagement of youth for global action as it plans to step into its 75th anniversary. And this is a very deepening thoughtfulness in reimagining the place of world young adults to global, nation, and rural development. I sincerely applaud the United Nations in this dimension that they're doing. Our organization, the Center, the SDG Global Education USA, has in the past enacted initiatives to help exposure. The Center for SDG Global Education USA has in the past years enacted initiatives to help exposure, education, and empower youth, students, and girls to actions through youth program, the Hug for Peace, the UN SDG School Club, and modern UN SDG education camps. We have taken actions to help youth marshals and ambassadors in campus communities and schools. It is our passion that in the coming year, we will expedite actions in creating a 10-year movement for the Youth Gather for Development Agenda as a movement engaging more youth for the SDGs implementation successes. Finally, you will listen to the presentation of our distinguished speakers. I urge you to reflect on the message of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the 2020 Day of the Youth as released to the world youth. So in the message for the 2020, the theme was youth engagement for global action. Spotlights the way in which the voices and activism of young people making a difference and moving our world closer to the values and visions of the United Nations Charter. This year's Youth Day occurs in our life aspirations of young people continuing to be upended by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some have lost their lives. Many have family members and other loved ones that have perished. And the vulnerabilities of young refugees, displaced persons, young women and girls, and others caught up in a conflict or disaster has grown more acute. A generation very formative have been jeopardized. This step towards adulthood, identity, and self-sufficiency is thrown off course. Some have taken on care burdens or are suffering from increased risk of hunger, violence in the home, or the prospect of never being able to resume their education. But this generation is also resilient, resourceful, and engaged. They are the young people who have risen up to the demand, climate actions. They are mobilizing for racial justice and gender equality and are the champions of more sustainable world. They are peace builders, promoting social cohesion at a time of social distancing, advancing an end to violence globally, and advocating harmony at a time of raising hatred that's happening around the world. So many young women who have been on the front line in mobilizing for justice and climate actions, while all serving on the front line of what's taking place with COVID-19. So we're realizing that the promise of this generation means investing far more in young people's inclusion, participation, organizations, and initiatives. So I call on leaders and adults everywhere to do everything possible so that they're able to enable the world's youth to enjoy lives of safety, dignity, and opportunity, and continue to fulfill their great potential. So I welcome you all and hope that the practical engagement of young ones from global actions will make more meaningful from this moment on. So again, I celebrate you and I thank you for being a part and I'm asking you to please enjoy the conference, and thank you again for this day and this program. I turn it back into the hands of our facilitator.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Her Excellency. It was so great. Of course, the idea and of course the motto is the same, that it's time to collaborate with each other hand to hand and to support and champion and empower our youth, because it's the youth day, and of course the future is under the hand of you. So let's move on via the words that has been said by the Secretary General of the United Nations in order to address the Day of Youth.
The theme of this year's International Youth Day, Youth Engagement for Global Action, spotlights the ways in which the voices and activism of young people are making a difference and moving our world closer to the values and vision of the United Nations Charter. This year's Youth Day occurs as the lives and aspirations of young people continue to be upended by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some have lost their lives, and many have seen family members and other loved ones perish. The vulnerabilities of young refugees, displaced persons, young women and girls, and others caught up in the conflict or disaster have grown more acute. A generation's very formation has been jeopardized. Their steps towards adulthood, identity and self-sufficiency is thrown off course. Some have taken on care burdens or are suffering from increased risks of hunger, violence in the home, or the prospect of never being able to resume their education. But this generation is also resilient, resourceful and engaged. They are the young people who have risen up to demand climate action. They are mobilizing for racial justice and gender equality and are the champions of a more sustainable world. They are peace builders, promoting social cohesion at a time of social distancing, advancing an end to violence globally, and advocating harmony at a time of rising hatred. Many are young women who have been on the front lines in mobilizing for justice and climate action, while also serving on the front lines of the COVID-19 response. Realizing the promise of this generation means investing far more in young people's inclusion, participation, organizations, and initiatives. I call on all leaders and adults everywhere to do everything possible to enable the world's youth to enjoy lives of safety, dignity, and opportunity, and contribute to the fullest of their great potential.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And of course, the motive again is the same, to calling all leaders, everyone together, to come up and think about the areas that we would like to move forward. Nevertheless, let's move on to our special guest keynote for today's evening, starting from Her Excellency Professor Sarah, the Commissioner of Human Resource, Science and Technology of African Union. She will be focusing on the area of gender and youth engagement, implication for civic and community-minded engagement. Without further delay, Her Excellency, the floor is to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fawad. As you can see, it's night here already. So good afternoon, good morning to viewers all over the world. It is a great pleasure for me to participate on this celebration of the United Nations International Youth Day with the topic, Youth Engagement for Global Action. The topic couldn't have come at a more important time. I stand on existing protocols. I recognize excellencies, distinguished participants who have spoken before me and the ones who will speak after me. And I want to say that this International Youth Day is very, very important because it is a time for retrospection and introspection on what we are actually doing in capacitating the youth for competence and skills for the future that we say they are going to get into. I would like to say that I agree with Her Excellency, Reverend Dr. T.C. Martin, that there's need to create co-creation to bring youth on board in decision-making processes. The implementation of a civic and community-minded engagement can only be durable if we have gender and youth engagement. The question on gender is because, particularly here in Africa, we have patriarchal norms that stifle the complete participation of women and girls. And if gender is defined as the ascribed norms given to being male or female, then certain patriarchal rules and values affect the manner in which youth fare in these countries. So if we say that youth are our future, then we must create spaces for youth engagement. We must take cognizance of the needs of youth, provide a viable environment, conducive environment for youth-friendly policies and strategies, and empower the youth and the necessary skills and competence to make them flower. Youth civic and community engagement. Youth involvement in the form of civic and community engagement in the forms of project creation and issue-based advocacy are some of the many ways that young people energy becomes an invaluable tool to bring about community improvement. We said in 2017 as a team of the African Union that harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in youth, because in Africa, 70% of our population are below the age of 35. So with the high rates of unemployment that cripples the youth, such initiatives allow them to unleash their potential and invest their efforts into creating the society that they want to be a part of. Are the youth part of the society, or they are not given that space? Do they have a feeling of belonging? It is very, very important. And the only way they can have that feeling of belonging is when member states or governments and policymakers actually have a youth-friendly strategy or policy. And if we say that youth are the future, then the process of co-creation must involve the youth of Africa. Because as we say in an African proverb, it is he who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. There is a crucial importance in investing in the youth and empowering them to be active and engaged participants in their communities and countries, as it has shown positive development outcomes. We urge youth participants as it embraces skill development, confidence, and competency building. By facilitating their access to resources, knowledge, and opportunities for engagement, they become self-confident, productive, and secure people who go out into their communities and improve the lives of those around them. In order to effectively empower the youth, we need to give access on how they are perceived and what expectations people have of them, as this informs the kind of roles and responsibilities assigned to them, and as does their level of engagement. Their level of engagement must be such that they have confidence and trust in the people who are coming out to give them that space that they should thrive in. We have to take recognition of their backgrounds and disadvantages and how it affects their civic engagement influence. The lack of sufficient supportive societal norms that encourage young people's involvement can limit their capacity to be civically engaged and assume leadership roles, particularly in Africa, where they say women are heard, but women are seen, but not heard. We need to break those gender-constructed taboos and allow each and everyone to have space to be able to show their individual talents in a way that can bring about a sense of belonging and trust in the people who bring the policies. One other thing is the lack of, that stops youth participation in civic engagement is lack of sufficient supportive societal norms that encourage young people's involvement, and also the lack of access to information. We normally say that knowledge is power, and they need to have this power. We can reduce and remove the harmful effects of these factors by empowering the youth through having awareness creation campaigns that aim to remove the barrier to information access and create supportive environments that make them feel capable of stepping into leadership roles. This is important because our work with young people has shown that there are numbers of structural and societal barriers and biases, such as those of perceived inexperience, lack of supportive social networks, or insufficient financial resources that continue to cause young people to turn away from civil involvement. It is for this reason that the day of the International Youth Day grants us then an opportunity not only to confront some of these issues that the youth face, but also to celebrate and mainstream young people voices, actions, and initiatives, as well as their meaningful, universal, and equitable engagement, in the hopes of creating a sense of pride in what they have done and what they have the potential to do. Over the years, we have had a number of policies, strategies, and initiatives that have been implemented to ensure that there is adequate representation of the youth, not only in matters that affect the youth, but on the continental and global level. For example, we have the African Youth Charter, the Youth Decade Plan of Action, and the Malabo Decision on youth empowerment, all of which are implemented through various African Union Agenda 2063 programs. The AU and UN envoys, the UN youth delegates are volunteering opportunities and internships. And because of this, we have seen a number of success in the implementation of these initiatives. However, we can continue to do more and ensure that the translation of these policies are as effective as intended. We also need to remove the negative perceptions of the youth by actively broadcasting the great work done by the youth in their various capacities. These perceptions are not limited to young people. There is intersection with gender issues, like I mentioned, because of the definition of gender. And when a child is growing up, he or she innately acquires these gender values, those stereotypes that they put in place for the youth. So it has called for the implementation of a number of policies aimed at removing the gender discrimination that exists. Gender stereotypes and societal norms can be harmful and increase risky behaviors, unsafe health practices, and cut off educational and economic opportunities for both boys and girls. These policies and programs take into account that the impact on girls and young women may differ from that on boys and young men, and adjust accordingly to ensure positive outcomes in community engagements. There needs to be a sensitivity to perceive gender norms and roles and how they affect their delivery. As we speak now globally, these unprecedented times, the COVID-19 outbreak has presented a vast number of challenges to many. This year, we have witnessed a great shift in the world as we know it. But these circumstances, such as any challenges that life throws, present avenues for innovation. The creation of innovative mechanisms are where we have known young people to excel as a result of their dynamism, optimism, and resilience. As we strive to redefine a post-COVID new normal, in quotes, we need to carefully assess what we have done to date for the inclusion of the youth and restructure when necessary to the new normal to be that which has a full inclusion of the youth. We can do this by starting now, where we are, by building up the capacity of youth to become tools in combating the spread and effects of COVID-19, especially to challenge the spread disinformation in the communities and on online platforms. Through the number of community-friendly and contextualized content, we have seen young people use engaged mechanisms such as the sharing of videos online, encouraging hand washing, sanitizing, and social distancing, among others. These young innovators want to be part and want to make their communities better and safe. The question then is, how do we support them effectively? These times also leave many of the industrial youth disenfranchised and even idle due to protective restrictions. It is thus vital to give them constructive activities to involve themselves. We need to provide the right ecosystem for the youth to take the leap forward for the world and the Africa we want. It is very, very important because it is high time we gave the deliverables and stop the talk show. Government must sit up and act now. Inclusivity is the watchword, irrespective of class, race, or gender. Youth engagement means a holistic approach, trusting young people, giving them spaces to speak and support all process of human life. We need to allow them organize and advocate for themselves and their needs. They are the next generation. We should not make them the lost generation. Inclusion means engaging them at the local, community, national level, and continental level. Indeed, meaningful youth engagement is an intentional partnership between youth and governments and other youth stakeholders, where young people are given space to be involved in all aspects of societal decision making, in implementation and evaluation of decision making. Yes, as was said, youth are peace builders and can advocate for peace and security in their world. Having said this, I want to congratulate the UN for the collaboration, for the celebration of the International Youth Day. I also applaud the theme of this year. Congratulations to the articulate, dynamic, vision-driven, resilient youth across the world. You own the world and you are the future. Sincere gratitude to the youth-led organizations who are bringing new perspectives and direction to issues affecting different spaces of life. Indeed, youth issues are cross-cutting strategic issues that warrant that we walk the talk. We must remember that it is our choices that show what we truly are, for more than our abilities. Indeed, if the youth are the future, we as policymakers must stay focused to their dream by having competent youth taking over tomorrow. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Thank you very much, United Nations, and thank you, Excellency Ambassador Fawad, for giving me this space to give this keynote approach on the keynote talk on gender and youth environment, implication for civic and community-minded engagement. Let's get them engaged and walk the talk and go beyond rhetorics. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency, for your great words, of course. And of course, you reminding us a very, very important point that the gender equality in today's era is actually really important in order to move forward and progress. Thank you so much, Her Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to another esteemed speaker for tonight's session. Is His Majesty SS Nicholas I, head of the nation state of the Principality of Seborga. His Majesty will going to enlighten his presentation on the promoting intergenerational governance. Without further delay, His Majesty, over to you now.
Thank you very much, Excellency. ID treason. Ladies and gentlemen, dear youth. First, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the organizers of this conference for honoring me with this invitation. World Youth Day is an event that touches all of humanity, and I thank the United Nations for making August 12 an annual and global event dedicated to youthful people of our world. My first thought leads me to the definition of the word youth. What age group is considered to be young? I wonder indeed, at what age does youth begin and at what age does it end? Is it a state of mind? Millions of young people of this world live in diverse and sometimes contradictory and opposite situations. There are young people who are lucky to have access to education, information, while others exist completely enclosed in total inertia for lack of means or resources, depending on where they happen to be born, exist now on Earth. In any case, the youth of this world are full of wills, energy, and endowed with convictions to face the lack of governmental means, material wealth, and technology. Yes, the global population of young people is full of wills, ideas, and energy, whether personal or communal. That it's imperative to give young people, students, whether in college or in university or in their workplace, the opportunities to express their intelligence and give free rein to their fruitful, progressive ideas, so that those who are no longer linked to youth may better understand the collective intelligence of our young people. This is how the human race evolves. Every generation plays a role. And if you, the youth, don't contribute your ideas and use your energy to manifest them, humanity cannot evolve. So we need each and every one of you to express yourselves and your ideas, or the rest of us will miss out on these valuable contributions to our shared human evolution. For many these days, young and less young, the world seems to be in a state of paralysis. But should we continue to leave humanity in this orchestrated chaos and lose confidence in one another? Absolutely not. And this question constitutes my second reflection. Let us not forget that the globalization continues to develop collaborations between nations and states that advocate peace and prosperity for all. This peace, tolerance, and understanding towards one another, this source of solidarity without distinction of race, color, creed, culture, sex, or sexual orientation increases daily. It is the peace that unites people of all ages, and who, without being aware of it, contribute to free trade with all the freedom of expression inherent in this century, whether cultural, political, economic, or religious. Yes, the key to the globalization in mutual and deep respect. But the generation of youth, as strong, as powerful as it is, remains dependent on agreements between nations and states, and some that are just waiting to be established. Globalization has a particular intelligence to repeat what it has already produced and tends to sit on its achievements as it responds to an economic and financial will in an accelerated rhythm. Through global cooperation, we can harness the power of our global trade so that it continues in an ecologically friendly and humanitarian fashion. We cannot stop the tides of change, but we can direct our collective energies for a more peaceful and secure planet. The specter of the symbols, materials, and statues that adorn our cities and parks bear witness to an earlier youth, which today's youth is taught to remember, perhaps subliminally, that the history of mankind was written by them. Humanity is aware of moving forward and sure of itself in this globalization, because many are not really aware that the future of humanity belongs to our children. Children will also say to themselves, let's get things done. But children will also be confronted with today's youth if nothing changes in consciousness. So let us today, together, take the path of consciousness in order not to just promote, but rather to materialize the wills and treasures of courage demonstrated by today's youth. The internet system that the previous generation created is a perfect example of this manifestation of wills. And I will say, a benchmark. This wonderful technology, born from the human brain, opens up opportunities for all people by giving them more for their learning or in their training. Another example is the Principality of Serbia, a nation state which in order to progress has had to face not the youth, but the adult world, a world of adults caught up in ancient youth, but tending to remain a slave to his generation. The current world lives within the perceptions of previous generations. And when confronted with the major decisions that will make up the world of tomorrow, to the past. So, youth of today and tomorrow, let's create from sustainable development a major asset of international society, and let us strive to be the best regeneration in the cycle of humanity. Let us always remember the valuable lessons of the past and continue on in a spirit of collaboration, peace, and prosperity. So congratulate yourself on being young and don't waste your time feeling like you are not good enough or don't have something to contribute, because we all have something to contribute. It just may not be evident to you today, but know that the future of humanity will be richer with your contribution. I am so curious and pleased to learn what each of you contributes in terms of personal ardor and ideas in this pandemic period, where global and intergenerational solidarity is paramount. Know that the future is yours, and the Principality of Seborga does not hesitate to recognize it. Yes, the nation state of the Principality of Seborga knows what it is to undertake, knows what it is to give, and what it is to suffer from non-consideration by virtue of I don't know what law or I don't know what obscure force. However, the Principality of Seborga is now in tune with digital technology, and the blockchain of the Principality of Seborga is the fruit and proof of work accomplished with courage, solidarity, and determination. The Principality's digital administration has created all the technical dematerialization elements and all the financial instruments. And for that, I thank the Fed for having granted the status of currency to Bitcoin, as I thank the Federal Court of Washington, D.C. for formally considering Bitcoin as a form of money, a currency in its own right governed by the body of laws applying to financial flows. Because these new considerations give the opportunity to young people, as to all generations, to pursue university studies or to enrich themselves with training through bilateral agreements between the states which are willing to offer their youth this opportunity. At this time, when we praise the youth for its social and environmental movements, humanity is a new era, a new cycle. This new era that's upon us, I want to believe will be the most prestigious and peaceful. And if the young people of a bygone era, that is to say, the adults of today, don't want to make the effort to remedy the world's imbalances in a quick and concrete way, then it's up to the youth and those who support them to ensure that this new era benefits not only that of a privileged few, but of all people. Let's be convinced that peace, progress, sustainable development, ecology, environmental protection, equality between women and men, and solidarity are a common good that ensures every person will have their fair share. May this new era make it possible to increase the just and the good, so that all the women and men of the earth are recognized in their values in order to regain and maintain dignity in full. And finally, I hope that this new era will provide for billions of disabled and struggling human beings enough to overcome their suffering, hunger, misery, and ignorance, and that each human being will be able to access education and information to promote social progress and to participate in the development of the world and our shared human evolution. That are the role and the duty of governments to maintain the esteem, confidence, and mutual friendship of the people who, in this new era, come together to consolidate world peace. Heads of states, high dignitaries, let's unite our efforts and our wills so that the youth of today, of yesterday, and of tomorrow can enjoy our natural world and the benefits of digital technology and flourish in this new mechanism of society. Let's not be afraid of the future. The will of the people is to increase functioning, to make life for all better, and so that people will be actors. So let us to enjoy the system that scientists and engineers offer us, like this artificial intelligence, which we often speak of, because it ultimately only remains connected to a simple server or to a cloud that only one finger of a human hand is able to control. And if we, despite all this, and if fear were to reign supreme, then it's time to stop development and globalization, or to create jobs, like the seed of an oak tree that we plant without being afraid of its elevation. Let's trust our systems and instruments, because artificial intelligence will never exceed people's intellectual capacities. As for the future of our climate, for which the COP21 and the youth are mobilizing with the ardor and efficiency that we recognize in them, we can only deplore the impotence of the world's populations, despite the social and political enthusiasm for environmental security. We are simply confronted with the elements of Mother Earth that remain uncontrollable to us. Let's stop wondering and worrying, but instead restore confidence with a new promise to preserve the natural world, and with our new technologies. The future looks bright for our young people and for all of humanity. The digital system of the Principality of Seborga that I represent, in its perspective and according to its platform, will create thousands of jobs, whether they belong to the world of today or to the world of tomorrow, whether public or private. And I will therefore not fail to submit my proposals to the General Secretary of the United Nations. To conclude, I humbly thank the Assembly for having listened to me. I thank the high dignitaries and the representatives of all the organizations present. And I thank again the youth and the United Nations for the energy, support, love, and wisdom that has brought me in front of you today, with a special tooth to indigenous people and Lebanese people, to whom I express my deepest solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, His Majesty, for your powerful speech, and of course, all those major areas, especially that our youth need to focus today. And of course, the decision maker and neighbors, and of course, the decision makers has to do something for in order to promote. Once again, thank you so much, His Majesty. It was really amazing to hear you. Thank you so much for giving us the time for today. Thank you so much, His Majesty. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move further to our another speaker for tonight, and that is, nevertheless, of course, another enthusiastic and of course another personality, Mr. Khalid Imam. Mr. Imam, if you would like me to share your presentation, or you would like to do by yourself, sir, or I have ready your presentation with me. whatever is convenient for you, sir.
That's great. Just 2 minutes first. I will say something else.
Sorry, Mr. Khalid, we cannot hear you properly.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Khalid, we can hear you.
Okay, great. It will be great if you can share my presentation just after 2 minutes.
Of course, sir. It's already ready for you, Mr.
Great.
Khalid. That's for you. Thank you. Welcome on board, Mr. Khalid. The floor is all yours. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the Center for SDG Global Education USA for inviting me and having me here. And I find it very difficult to speak after this powerful speeches by our other speakers today. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Khalid Imam. I am a human rights lawyer from Cairo, Egypt. And I work as the co-chair of the United Nations Interagency Network on Youth Development on behalf of the major group for children and youth. I am also the global focal point on SDG 16 at the UN major group for children and youth. And my focus as a lawyer and also as an activist focused on the civic space and protection of human rights organization, especially that lead by young people. And before to start my speech, happy International Youth Day for everyone here. And I think will be good to just share with you what we are doing for the International Youth Day. And I will just share my screen, Dr. Fad, and then we can go back to your screen. Do you see my screen now? No?
Yes, we can. We can, of course.
Yeah. Thank you. So for the International Youth Day, I would like just to use 2 minutes to tell you or to show you what we are doing for the International Youth Day. So for the International Youth Day, Zionist Youth Caucus organizing a very big, large events, which is the Yaned Youth Caucus or the World Map for Youth Events around the world. Through this page, you can first listen to our podcast, which we have some amazing youth speakers from all around the world sharing their story for youth engagement in many different topics. And if you open our map, you will see how there is like hundreds of people around the world now organizing many different events related to the International Youth Day. So I encourage you to have a look for this on this map and upload any event that related to the International Youth Day, including this event. And for sure, it's also opportunity to see how the young people, what the young people doing to celebrate this very important day. Now, please, Dr. Fad, if you can go back and share my screen. I will stop.
Yes, if you just stop sharing your screen, then I will do that. And please, I request you do not forget to drop those links to the chat box, so our panelists as well as our participant will have a look into that as well. So,
yeah, I will do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency. Your presentation is on board now.
Great. So if you go for the next slide, please. So yeah, so here I would like to share some examples about what youth doing for the global actions. And first thing that I want to share here, how youth lead calls for change and democracy around the world, and from Egypt, and what our experience after the Arab Spring showed, how young people were calling and leading many peaceful protests to call for democracy and to call for ending poverty and hunger and to call for justice and equal access to justice for everyone. And unfortunately, this call for protest and this peaceful change movement ended with a big large of violence from many different governments in the Middle East. And we have the only example who succeed to move from this movement with Tunisia, and hopefully the situation will continue there for the democratic transition. And also here now in Sudan, which is young people calling and leading change. And there's many challenges in Sudan, but young people still trying and seeking and working hard to end the transition system in Sudan with a democratic state, which is everyone have the fundamental human rights and democracy. And next, please. And secondly, after this large space of violence started by many governments in Middle East and worldwide, young people didn't stop here. Young people believe that we should live in a peaceful community, that youth organization, young people around the world still working hard to make sure that we are that also live in a peaceful community. Look what's happening in Syria now in this very risks spaces. Still, many organizations trying to create the space for people to share the experience simply through digital spaces like social media or whatever. Also, Libya and Yemen and Sudan, all these places, which is young people in this very risk system, still trying to create a peaceful community and prevent conflict. Next, please. And the last example I want to share here, which is we experienced, I think you all know how young people were working during the pandemic to raise awareness about social distance and healthcare, and how we're trying to help the other people or supporting the other people, especially young people who work in hospitals and health system, and this is for sure lead to saving lives of people, as the Secretary General mentioned, like young people was in the front lines trying to protect and saving the lives of the people during the pandemic. And I really, I was honored to see how many youth organizations in different places, even in peace and conflict areas, which is youth in conflict area facing the big risk, facing conflict at the same time. And with the lack of strong institutions, the COVID-19 pandemic has a very large impact there, which is also young people with this very limited resources still trying to help the others to protect themselves and to protect their countries from the pandemic. Next, please. Thank you. And here, no, the one, yeah, thank you. And here, I want to just highlight some challenges that young people and the organization leading by young people facing in worldwide now. And a first example for me, or first the challenges, and the most important challenge that youth organization, especially in my region, in Middle East and North Africa region, facing is the limitation of the civic space, and which is the authorities and government still attacking on our civic space and civil society organization. And many human rights organization and civil society organization targeted under the idea of counter-tourism, fighting under tourism. So the limitation of the civic space really created challenges now, and for sure this is preventing youth to make a global action. The second challenges, which is also related, is the lack of public safe spaces, including civic safe spaces, private safe spaces, digital safe spaces, physical safe spaces. This is very late on these spaces now, which is unfortunately making hard to work in the issues that I mentioned before, building strong institution and calling for peaceful communities. And here, I want to just mention the digital spaces, which is the only or the last spaces in many different countries that still young people can use to express their opinion and to show their work. Unfortunately, the digital spaces now is being targeted by many governments, hacking and attacking the privacy of the people, installing information and attacking people because they just expressing their opinion or sharing Facebook posts around the political situation. And one of also the challenges that young people face now is the lack of resource due inequality, corruption, poverty, and employment. And for sure, this is like a big link between all this kind of stuff. And as we know, the SDGs are linked and are important. So we cannot build strong institutions without young people participation. And we cannot make sure that young people participating in the decision making without ending corruption and poverty and employment. And the last thing that I want to mention is important to have exclusive network. Unfortunately, this exclusive membership and private network, which is like limited number of people controlling this network and this organization around the world, preventing young people to access to these resources. Next. And here, after all these challenges, I want to just highlight and mention the new UN Security Council Resolution 2535, which is the third resolution on youth, peace, and security. And very likely, this resolution highlighting most of the problems that I mentioned above. The new resolution highlighting the problem of the civic space, linking the human rights violence and how the human rights violence around the world preventing us from building peace, and also mentioning the importance of accountability, of how we need to bring those who are responsible for world crimes and human rights violence into justice, because sure we cannot achieve peace without justice, and we cannot have justice without accountability. Next, please. Thank you. And I would like to end with some recommendation that I believe that's very, very important to mention on the International Youth Day. First, we believe that the path to peace begins with respecting justice and fundamental human rights for every citizen, which is for sure requires spaces free from fear, and that young people can express their opinions safely. And this is also response about the point that I mentioned before. Young people have the power, young people want to change, but they cannot change when they are even cannot protect themselves. Second point, civil society organizations, especially led by young people, they are playing the most important role promoting human rights on the ground. Therefore, they must be protected and supported by all means possible. And lastly, effective networking is one of the most important methods to support civil society organization as a whole. And I think this is something that we can start from this discussion, that we can always support to create strong partnerships, strong networks between young people and also the international organizations, civil society organizations, government that work on human rights and peace building and true education. And I would like to end here. Thanks so much again for having me here. And I'm sorry that my language is a little bit bad. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry into that. So yes, thank you so much, His Excellency Khalid, for giving us a very great speech. And of course, I would like to mention here to all our audience that His Excellency Khalid is actually the co-chair of the United Nations Interagency Network on Youth Development. So His Excellency having a very good hold into the youth development and youth department side from the United Nations. Once again, thank you so much, His Excellency Khalid, for giving us the time and of course sharing an amazing presentation, and of course enlightening all those areas what it specifically United Nations is doing for the future leaders, that is our youth. And that's what we are celebrating here, our Youth International Day. Thank you so much, His Excellency Khalid. So moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, allow me to introduce Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Diana Kinoli. She is a global leadership strategist and also a Diana Kinoli Enterprises, CDKA. She will be focusing on the youth-guided, youth engagement, leaders of today, not just leaders of the tomorrow. Without further delay, Her Excellency, the floor is to you. And now I would like to share my screen for your presentation. Her Excellency, can you hear us?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers and guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. The time for new thinking and leadership on the realities of our human existence and how our society operates is now. Unlocking potential. The future of a nation is not ahead of us, it is within us. And we must accept the responsibility of building a nation. B, we must believe in the greatness of a nation and its youth as its drivers. C, we must commit our scarce resources, including our network and our net worth, so that D, we are able to deliver the future of a nation. The future of a nation is not just a time zone or a date on a calendar that is yet to be revealed. The future of any nation is everything that the nation can do, but has not yet done. The future of any nation is everything it can be, but has not yet become. The future of any nation is everything that the people of that nation can have, but have not yet possessed. We must make a covenant to deliver that future now, because you do not walk into the future, you deliver the future by how you prepare and make room for potential to succeed today. The legacies of greatness across the nations are in our youth today. And to the youth, two very powerful questions to ask. Number one, what is the legacy of greatness that you know about your nation? And two, what will the value of your nation's currency be against any currency in 2025 and 2030? The human race is a relay race, and every generation must be willing to run their race and to understand that there comes a point where you must be able to pass the baton on to the next generation. And every generation has a choice to make, to either be a wasted generation or to be a great generation. A wasted generation hands over a disadvantage to the next generation and then says, it's now up to you to fix it. A wasted generation enjoys constant power and then hands over generators to the next generation. A wasted generation does not improve education systems and does not want the next generation to go to the same schools that prepared them for leadership. A wasted generation does not ensure road safety and the safety of its citizens. A great generation hands over an advantage to the next generation. A great generation not only solves problems for its generation, it also helps them to learn the next generation how to solve its problems. A great generation does not pass problems to the next generation. It passes solutions and problem-solving techniques, problem-solving institutions, problem-solving systems, teaching these to the next generation. A great generation does not burden the next generation with their problems because they know that the next generation will have problems of their own to solve. Accepting responsibility to build a great generation, because it is what you permit that will persist. Let us be very clear. Whilst we may not be responsible for the nation that we inherited from our parents will not be responsible for the nation that our children will inherit from us. That responsibility is solely ours. The time is now when we are not able to afford the luxury of self-deceit. The question that our youth, our children and grandchildren will ask is not, how did we get here? But what did you do to get us here? And we must have the answer. People are born and planted in nations to build, to work, to guide, to guard, and to produce a better version of the nation they were born into. We are ordained with talent, with passion, and with a personality to be able to identify a problem and solve it for our generation. Leading today to lead tomorrow. To our youth, we are learning from you. We thought that we needed to get to success before we could get to significance. You already understand significance and are teaching us to harness the power of being cause-oriented, to work collaboratively and not in silos. You do that well, in the community, in the nation, and across the nations, driving global movements. And so I say to you, the future of leadership is within you. The future of leadership is within me and within every person that you encounter every day, including our wonderful panelists today. So do your personal growth work to know your worth and do not relent. Grow where you are planted. Do not settle for less than your worth. Do not let anyone who doesn't look like you make decisions about you. Design a vision for where you are going. Do not focus on the past, because outside of today, tomorrow belongs to you. Be absolutely tenacious. Vision does not happen just because you saw it. So fight for it, maneuver for it. It will unfold piece by piece. So be patient. Challenges, remember, are a sign that there is value in what you seek. And practice gratefulness, because it gives you more when you get to the place that you are supposed to be. Practicing gratefulness might not feel like it when you get there, or what you had in mind, because of what it took and what it takes to get there. You practice gratefulness because there are some things that you will have to deal with. There are some difficulties you will have to walk through. You practice gratefulness because the celebration usually doesn't look like you thought it would be. And when all is said and done, find your way to absolute gratitude. Because you, our youth, are multidimensional. You are creative beings, children of God, gifted with an amazing intellect, living in a physical body, to have dominion over all things, and abundance is your birthright. We believe in you. And I have a special gift for you today. If you will go to www.dianakenoli.org/dream2020, remember to add that in, you will be able to download a plan on how you can work through developing your dream, vision, goals, and use it over and over again. Thank you so much for listening. It is my honor to serve you today.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency, for giving us, in fact, a new direction that let's not forget present, of course. We always talk about the future leaders, but the present will make them, of course, the future, the great leader. Thank you so much, Her Excellency, Diana. So we do have plenty of questions, of course, that we will be going to somehow entertain when we will be opening our question answering sessions. So I can see that people are really interested and, of course, appreciating this all great what is going on. So without further delay, let's move forward to our another speaker for tonight. So it's better we will open a question answer floor at this stage to entertain some questions from our participant for today. So if we see the questions today, so the floor is open for the question answer. I would request to all our participants, if you start dropping your question, and also don't forget to mention to which particular speaker you would like to ask this question, or it could be like anyone can, of course, answer that. So I can see one question that says from Dr. Sudhir Joshi, all the way from India, Gujarat, actually. He said that, can we make youth as a change agent by assigning them specific responsibilities of a specific indicator of SDG after giving training as per protocol? As here in India, we started in this regards, SDG 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 are very good area for youth. Yes, that's great. Thank you very much for your question, Dr. Sudhir. I would request to our panelists if anyone would like to answer this question which has been asked. by one of our participants. Very well, sir.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
please.
Yeah, thanks for the question or this recommendation. For sure, it's very good always to give young people the power and to give them the space to change. And I saw your suggestion about giving young people like a special tasks on special indicators within the SDGs. And that's actually what also we do with the major group for children and youth, the United Nations major group of children and youth. We have different youth organization and different individuals, youth leaders who lead in some specific goals. So, for example, I am the global focal point on SDGs 15. So my area of work is focused on SDGs 15 plus, which is including the access to justice, build strong institutions, human rights education, all these kind of issues. And specifically under SDGs, we have some different also avenue, which is we have the peace and security, we have the human rights, we have the responsibility to protect, we have the YPS or the youth peace and security. So this is a good example about how young people on the major group working with us. At the same time, we have other groups who work in gender equality, and they are also engaging with many different avenues within the United Nations system with specific goals. And under these goals, they also divided to specific groups for specific targets and indicators. So, and also I would love to hear from you here. And for sure, this is what I mentioned before about partnerships and networking and sharing experience. So for sure, will be good for us to know what you are doing in India and how this works. And sure, we can, if this is good practice, we can share this with our teams in the other different countries. And also here, I want to mention the UN country teams that we're working with now. We work with some United Nations offices in all around the world about this kind of issues, how we can engage young people within the SDGs and the four pillars of the United Nations. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got another interesting question, and that's for Her Excellency Ambassador Diana. And the question is, sorry, Her Excellency, can you hear us? Dr. Diana?
Yes,
can
I
you
can.
hear us? Okay,
Yes,
so the question is that, please, can you tell me how one can strictly implement change in the society, since no one is willing to adopt to change due to high level of corruption?
So in leadership development, we always say whatever change you want to see on the outside has to begin within you, right? And you have to determine what it is you desire. You have to figure out what it is you are called to do. Because once you make up your mind what it is you have been called to do, how you have been called to serve, change then begins to work from the inside out, right? But you do have to have a clear view, a clear picture of what it is you have been called to do. When it comes to matters of adaptation, you as the youth choose to do that. You have the power to design the life that you want. No one can do that for you. You are the ones that have the absolute passion that you need, right? Because a lot of us who have been there before, it's kind of taken us a long time to get to where we have been. You can literally have everything you desire right now. It just takes you making up your mind to do it. And whatever you don't like, this is what we say. Wherever your focus will go, that's where all of your effort is going to go. Focus on what it is that you want. Focus on the design for your life that you want, and design your empowered life. Because if you are absolutely empowered, everyone else around you is going to be empowered. So I hope that helps you, Francis Oraeki.
Yes, of course, that was the one. That's fine. So I can't see any more questions. And
I think there's
okay,
one.
there
There
is
is.
there is one question, of course. Sorry, Her Excellency, you were saying something.
No, I was just letting you know that there is one question.
Yes, that's what I was just thinking. There
Awesome.
is one question before we can move. Yes, your answer is actually to the Francis Oreke, actually, about that. And let's move forward. There's another interesting question. It said that how could we improve humanities as much as our ability? I think it is the most important point for development, actually. So the course the participant haven't mentioned. So I would like to request to all our participants, please do mention that to whom you are asking this question. So it will be better for us to give the floor to that respective speaker, actually. So yes, so the question is again, how could we improve humanities as much our ability? I think it is most important point for development. Maybe we can request to Her Excellency Professor Sarah, if you could hear us. Her Excellency Sarah, are you hearing us?
I'm hearing you. Can I?
Yes, I can repeat a question for you. It's
Yes, please.
about the development, Her Excellency. The
Yes.
question is, how could we improve humanities as much our ability? I think it is the most important point for development, Her Excellency.
Thank you very much. It is a very important question because the reason why I think the theme of this year has to do with youth engagement for global action is to improve our humanity. Everybody needs a sense of belonging, and everybody needs to have that opportunity to serve in whatever capacity they want to. So can we improve humanity as best as our ability? Like I said, it depends on the choices we make. The choices we make also affect the actions that come towards us. Like Her Excellency, who spoke before me, said, the youth themselves need to have confidence in themselves because self-value, self-dignity, self-respect, nobody can give it to you unless you give it to yourself. And you must have a vision to translate your world into what the thing should be. Like I used to tell the youth of Africa, when you speak about the American dream, what do you say about the African dream? And most often, I hear with a very big laugh, like they are jeering, But it is very, very important. It shows where we are coming from. It is that humanity, impacting our humanity. I believe that the governments, who are the policy makers, should put in strategies that actually improve the life of everybody. Like I said, irrespective of race, class, or gender. And in doing that, it means that we need to bring competence and skills that can actually change the lives of people. Education, because I'm the Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, heading 3 divisions, education, science and technology, and youth and human resources. Like I read there, the youth are leaders today, not only for tomorrow, and I agree with you. And if they are leaders today, we need to make sure that they have their basic needs, they have good education, and then they have the co-creation spaces to participate. So to create, to improve our humanity means that we should see each and every one of us as deserving of that quality to be alive. Because it shouldn't be because I'm rich or I'm poor. Like I used to say, when you take a flight, there's business class, there's first class, and there's third class. But the economic class. The important thing is that all of us are arriving at the same time. And if all of us are arriving at the same time, we need the same safety measures because it is the same plane. In essence, it is the same world. It is the same humanity. So whether you are business, first class, or economic class, what is important is you having adequate resources to take good care of yourself. And that is the only way we can promote peace in our world. So to have that humanity, that perfect humanity, or anyway, that ideal humanity is for us to have basic necessities that concern food, potable water, good health, and policies that actually drive us towards this move. So if that is done, then our ability can match our desire. The vision must be first. What is that vision of humanity that you're thinking about? And when you think about that vision, if it's a holistic vision, then definitely a holistic approach will be taken to serve each and everyone in the society so that the different conflicts and dissents that we experience will no longer be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And in fact, I've got another question for you, Her Excellency. And the question is from Yabusira. And the question is, how can we make peaceful protest one's own country for the sake of democracy, especially in African country?
The theme of this year of the African Union is silencing the guns. The theme of last year of the African Union was 2019, the year of returnees, refugees, and internally displaced persons. For the past 3 years, the theme has focused on peacekeeping and making sure that we have peace in our continent. How can we actually promote that culture of peace? To promote the culture of peace is actually linked to the very question I just answered. Because what makes people to have conflict within the society, the African society that we see, the high rate of unemployment, the discrimination that occurs within the systems, and the promises, the government talk shows that do not actually implement the talk. They don't go beyond rhetorics. And people are already pushed to the wall. And when people are pushed to the wall, when they're pushed to the wall, they resist. And that resistance brings in different forms of conflicts and protests. So how can we stop this protest? Or how can we make a peaceful protest? How can there be a peaceful protest? Because when you're protesting, it is something agitating you to protest. In Africa, we say a hungry man is an angry man. If a hungry man is an angry man, it therefore means that they have not been given their full rights. And when they see that segregation and discrimination, the only other way they can move is to protest. And there's no way we can actually have a peaceful protest. If government wants a peaceful protest, they should give a listening ear to the people. They should feel the pains of the people. They should speak in the language of Ubuntu, because in Africa we say, Ubuntu, I am because you are. It therefore means my own existence, my very existence depends on you. And you know what COVID-19 has taught us? Each and every one of us, there's nobody beyond the scourge of COVID. Whether you are rich, whether you are poor, male or female, handicapped or physically alert, you are faced with COVID and the same way you express it. And I'm sure the world is listening to the COVID pandemic because great and big people have all passed on. So if we realize that our humanity depends on each other, whether you are a president, when you are talking about education, believe that your child or your child or your protege will go to that very school. And then therefore, you need to make good decisions on education. If it's the health facilities, many who used to travel to Switzerland, abroad, etc., to get their medicals now have to stay back in Africa because there was a complete lockdown. It therefore means they need to promote a good health structure. If these infrastructures are put in place, and there's a communication and awareness and sensitization that if we speak democracy, government of the people, by the people, for the people, then we should act the way it is. It is the only way I believe that you can have a peaceful protest. Because when you promise people for so long, it's like you having, I'm going to use something I normally do in the classroom, which normally moves towards my students and make them feel. If you have a boyfriend who keeps on promising you every day, I will do this for you, I will do that for you, and he never does it, what happens? One day when he comes, you will look at him straight in the eye and say, get out. You are not worth my attention. And that is what is happening in many countries of Africa because the government is not responding to the needs of the people. And the people, they are the bigger people, democracy, the larger population. And when push comes to shove, what you see is what we witness now in Africa. So it is high time we as leaders take responsibility because leadership is a responsibility. I hope I didn't go up.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency. I wish I could entertain more questions, but nevertheless, we have to cope up with the time as well, and there are plenty of amazing and high excellencies speakers are waiting for us, and we all are really eager to hear them. So let's move on to our next speaker, of course. Our next speaker is His Excellency Ambassador Usman Sirki, who is actually the director of a National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS Kuru, Nigeria. His Excellency will be going to enlightening onto the topic of a democratic participation of youth and strengthening meaningful engagement. Without further delay, His Excellency Usman, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure and honor to join you. I'm supposed to speak on the subject or topic, democratic participation of youth in strengthening meaningful engagement. It gives me great pleasure to join you and to speak on this very important topic. We all agree that the sudden and unexpected outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic across the world has posed a very serious challenge to youth and all societies. The pandemic's global and localized impacts on the attainment of the SDGs must be considered by the panelists and by the UN family in general. The worldwide demonstrations also against racism and racial discrimination has created a new emphasis and solidarity among young people across the world, for which they should be commended, and also this momentum should be maintained towards creating equality and a sense of community amongst all people. My presentation has been sent to the organizers. It can be shared by the organizers to all interested parties. I think, it will, because of the time limit, I cannot read through it. But the important thing is that the SDGs offer very, very unique opportunity for young people to become engaged in the global governance process and also at the national level towards establishing equality, creating inclusiveness, and making peaceful and prosperous societies possible, as envisaged by the SDGs. The other issue, of course, is the importance of connecting today's event with the celebration of the International Youth Day by the United Nations. This is a very important and highly significant occasion to create democratic space for young people to participate in politics and in governance. Without young people's participation in politics and governance, democracy will lose its future prospects and immediate momentum. Carrying young people along and creating inclusiveness is the surest guarantee towards ensuring that democracy is sustained, democracy is strengthened, and democracy is made to be relevant to the lives of people. The other issue, of course, which I wish to raise is that young people must be very dynamic and also purposeful in their engagement in their communities, particularly towards enabling them to be groomed for leadership in their communities. And I think, it's very important for me to refer to the outcome of the meeting of the Community of Democracy, or COD, that took place in Bucharest, Romania in July, where a resolution was adopted in which the space for participation of young people in democracy was highly recommended in member states. And I think this is also very true for all other countries, where young people should be encouraged to participate in politics and in governance, and also in ensuring that the future of democracy is protected and strengthened through observation of human rights, promotion of human rights, to intensify the fight against discrimination and racism, and also in making sure the economic prospects and opportunities are open for young people so that inclusiveness and equality is introduced into societies. Very recently, the Secretary General of the United Nations spoke to the entire world about growing inequality in the world and in our countries and in our communities. Inequality today poses the greatest threat and challenge to democracy. And it's young people who will fight to bring about a reversal in the growing trend in inequality and ensure that equality is reintroduced as a major theme and major important subject of discussion in the United Nations. So these are the remarks that I have aside of the, from the written text that I have sent to the organizers, and it gives me very great pleasure, sir, to be part of this. Let me seize this opportunity to send to the United Nations my condolence message on the passing away of His Excellency Ambassador Jean-Francois Zinzo, former ambassador and permanent representative of Benin Republic, with whom we worked very closely together to introduce the SDGs and other processes. So I thank you, Dr. Ada, I thank all of you for giving me these opportunities, and let me congratulate all young people around the world on the commemoration of the International Youth Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, His Excellency Usman, who is actually the former Deputy Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the United Nations. Thank you so much for giving us the time. Thank you so much for highlighting all those major issues, and of course, some great advices to all our younger generation, of course, the youth, on the day of International Youth Day. Thank you so much, His Excellency. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to thank you, His Excellency. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our another speaker for tonight. That is His Excellency Saad Okekes. He is actually the liaison officer of the International Federation of Medical Students Association. His Excellency Saad will going to highlight the area and going to discuss about the accelerating action and transformative ways. Without further delay, His Excellency Saad, the floor is to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and yeah, it's a great pleasure for me to be here. You know, it's really happy to be, you know, in International Youth Day celebration. And for me, I really believe that every day is International Youth Day. I mean, today is the 5th webinar I've been in just in today, and seeing every stakeholder, UN organizations, ministers, decision makers taking the lead and stepping and saying we should call for youth involvement and youth engagement during this day is really heartwarming. And I really wish that we can see that throughout the year. And this is what we youth are advocating and calling for, that not only in Youth Day, but other days and other years all the time, we keep pushing and we keep calling for meaningful youth engagement. So basically, it's great to be here. My name is Saad. I'm a final year medical student from Morocco, and I'm coordinating the COVID response, and again in the International Federation of Medical Students Associations, IFMSA, representing 1.4 million medical students around the world. So basically working a lot in the communities, and I would love to share with you from my humble experience some reflections about, you know, transforming actions and accelerating youth actions toward SDGs. So the way we'll go for this is I'll be sharing with you a framework with simple steps for young people to accelerate their actions and to transform their work to achieve SDGs. And at each level, I would be sharing some recommendations for decision makers, for stakeholders, for organizations, so that we can all together join hands and support you. So starting with first step, which is identifying your cause. And it's really crucial, you know, as young people, we tend to have energy, we have to have this creativity and motivation to make change happen and to act and to speak. But again, it's really important to be as specific as we can when choosing our cause. Once you choose your cause, then you can start your next step. And here, the role of us as organizations, as stakeholders, is to support the young people do that, is to offer them the space for them to speak up about their causes and about their problems. And I'm sure, and as Her Excellency just said, a hungry man is an angry man, and that's absolutely true. If you have young people in remote areas spending their whole day busy trying to find a job, trying to find something to feed their siblings and their families, they will not be able to advocate for their cause. So it's really important to provide this space, provide the rights for young people so that they can have the chance to focus on speaking about their causes. So that would be step number one. And once we have our cause and problem identified, then it's really important for young people to build themselves. And here I really emphasize on capacity building. I'm a peer trainer myself, and I really saw the magic that capacity building and empowerment can do when it comes to young people, and giving them the capacities, the knowledge and skills for them to transform to active actors and to take the lead on their problems. And here, it's really important to note that not only building capacity on the topic itself, but on different SDGs. And I'm sure that working on COVID for the past 4 months, that's a lesson that we all learned here, is that a health crisis is not only a health crisis, it's an SDGs crisis. That was the situation with COVID. We saw people getting their lives disrupted, jobs, gender violence at homes, different issues regarding the environment and so on. So when advocating on your cause, you should, as young people or as young person, build your capacity regarding that cause, and again regarding different SDGs, because they are all related, and that's what we keep saying about SDGs. They are interlinked, and you cannot achieve one problem if you don't work on different other problems. So as our roles, again, as organizations and stakeholders, is to offer platforms for young people, to support them, give them the knowledge and skills they need, and give them opportunities to grow. It can be by giving voluntary options. It can be by opening internships for you and organizations, ministries, decision-making agencies, and so on. Also providing part-time jobs and those practical field learning experiences for young people, so that they can grow, they can learn, and they can be empowered to take action on their problems. So moving on, there is a very essential step, which is networking. And I always say that one hand can never clap alone. It's really important for us, especially in the starting phases, to join hands, and this can really transform our actions and give us some really high impact. It's really important to look for people who are working on the same cause, work with them, network with them as young people, because together you can have a louder voice and you can have a higher impact. And our role here, again, as organizations and stakeholders, is to make sure we offer platforms for young people, either on the national level, local level, or international level, where people can network with each other. And this is, for example, what we're trying ourselves as young people to do. As IFMC, we're linking young people from more than 130 countries. The UNMGCY as well are providing platforms for sharing of best practices. So other stakeholders should do the same, giving a sharing option for sharing best practices, so that youth can network with each other and collaborate with each other. And this is really crucial. Again, another thing that should be worked on is starting small. And yeah, it was said before, step by step, so that you can reach impact. And I'm sure that, you know, if you try to do some advocacy work and raise your voice and speak about your problems without doing anything, it will not be as impactful as if you did some small actions. And let me just share with you, for example, an experience that I had personally in the last 3 months. Basically, we had an issue regarding information literacy and the spread of myths and all false informations in the recent times with COVID, everyone is worried, everyone is sharing information without verifying it. So we networked as 4 international youth organizations. We started a small initiative, a survey to analyze the situation and the attitude of youth regarding information. We did that for the past 2 months. We got more than 3,000 answers, and that small action allowed us to be in touch with WHO, with UNESCO, and today our action was presented in the webinar of WHO as a success story with the presence of the Director General of WHO and UNESCO. So small actions can never be underestimated. You start doing some local action, it does impact, and then you can raise your voice and say that this is what I did and this is what I want to do in the future. And again, when it comes to our role here again as organizations and stakeholders, it's really important to give facilities for youth, support them, and especially do not complicate the processes for young people. You know, when a young motivated person wants to do some local action in their community, don't overburden them with paperwork, with, you know, asking them to submit demands or go to this bureau and this bureau so that they can get approved. Just support them, just give them resources and the needs that they want. If a son of yours or a daughter of yours is needing some support, you would do whatever you can to make that happen. Do the same for young people. Don't overcomplicate that. And here I'm speaking, you know, from personal experience, wanting to make something happen. You spend more time making paperwork than the time you spend in the real field. So that's something to remember, please. Another thing to focus on again, or something that we should keep doing as young people, is making your noise. And I'm not speaking here about protesting or you know, strikes or that kind of noise, but I'm speaking about raising our voice and going and reaching to stakeholders and saying that we exist, saying that this is our cause, saying that this is what we've done as actions, and saying this is what we want. This is the change that we want to achieve. And believe me, if you keep making your noise, this is how it works. And this is what happened for us. We made noise, we reached out to WHO and UNESCO, and they saw that we are motivated and have a cause, so they collaborated with us. And I'm sure that many of your excellencies are here, have some really experiences with youth that have done some actions and made noise. And because if you don't make noise, you will not be able to support them and know about them. So make noise. It can be as simple as a tweet and then tagging the decision maker in your country, and that's making noise. That can make your voice reach out to the decision making table. So that's very important. And again, here for us as stakeholders or organizations to take into consideration is providing space for youth to raise their voice, to express themselves, to express their concerns, and to express what they are doing. And it can be done on different levels. It's like now people have quotas for youth in parliament, people have inclusion of youth in their ministries and in their decision-making level, UN Youth Delegates programs, so many initiatives for youth people so that they can make noise and express themselves in a good way. And maybe finally, there is this thing which is really essential: keep going. So it's important for you as young people to keep going and keep you know, persistent and working again and again for your causes, because you know, it's the long-term action that really makes change happen, and step by step you can really make things happen. And yeah, finally, I guess those were some reflections from my side on maybe it's a framework or some steps for young people on how you can, you know, change and elevate your game to reach out to SDGs. And again, some tips maybe from my humble experience and other youth that I interacted with on organizations and decision makers on how they can support youth to make that transformative pathway happen. And a happy day for everyone.
Thank you so much, His Excellency Saad. It was quite interesting the way you put out the things, of course, and especially those areas which is our youth is actually somehow surrounded with. So thank you so much for giving a very great and interactive presentation for that. And of course, to giving us the time and share your expertise and experiences on that. Ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, let's move to our another speaker for tonight, and that's Her Excellency Lala Rahal. She is a special advisor to the President of the Arab African Council Council for Integration and Development, called as AACID. She will going to highlight the special role, of course, in order to having an engagement for girls for global action, the road to leadership by and for girls. So without further delay, Her Excellency Lara Rahal, the floor is yours, ma'am.
So, good evening, everyone. Majesty, Your Excellency, honorable guests, and great youth we have today. All the management for this organization, Center SDG for Education USA. Thank you to Excellency Fawaz. Thank you to Dr. Okika and the Executive Director for this organization. It was great what you done today with all these honorable people here with us. So let's highlight and talk about the youth. Everyone know that the youth are the future, are the monopoly, are the life, the palpitation of our heart. That's why I'm not going to make any speech. What is coming from the heart, go into the heart, because one day I was youth and I did not find someone to support me, to help me. This new generation, they have everything. They need only sustainable development and system, and they need motivation. They are more brilliant than anyone in the world. They are the light of our life. So it's our duty, it's our engagement to make them in better home. They need only to understand diversity and inclusion. They need to know unity is humanity. They need to know dignity. It's the great opportunity they can have, and they need also to know that if they make them hand together, they will build everything, strategy, goals, and them dream it will be a really achievement. So today, wherever it's this organization, they're doing and fighting, United Nations and all the globe, they're all fighting for the youth. And all this excellency today, they are talking about the youth. But did we ask one day what the youth want? This is the main question we have to ask them. What do you want in this life? They will say we want stability, we want security, we want health, we want a better home, better life, we want job, we want. So we cannot do that ourselves. You are the one who have to fight for this, and you are the voice of the future. Let's talk about the engagement girls, and let's talk about how we can support the girls. Today, each girl is the mother and the future for a society and for a community. So today, if we support the girls, we are not talking about the girls who are in New York, Paris, or are in a high-level society. We're talking about the villages. Those girls are in small spot in the world, Africa, Estonia, Lithuania, and North Africa, Arabic zones, those villages with never people step there, Cambodia, India, Pakistan maybe. So there is a lot of corners in our community and nation and big globe which they never been highlighted. Those girls, they need support, they need a voice, they need to empower them. How to empower them? To give them decent life. United Nations is not from anywhere. They make this system, and they did not prepare this strategy and sustainable development to empower the youth from nothing. All these organizations are fighting for this because they know there is late somewhere, somehow there is a miss. So this girl, today, we are empowering the mother of tomorrow. We're empowering them to know what is their role, what they have to do, how they have to build their future. There is some girls, which I talk to them because I'm the president for women empowerment, and that gave me the role to empower the girl. I go to the villages, small villages, and I ask them, what do you want? Sometimes they say, we want just someone to listen to us, someone to help us, someone to understand what we want. So today, any young girl is my girl. Any African girl, it's my girl. And anyone have a dream, we have to make it through. Because if we empower them, let's see, internet is opening door for everyone. Uncle Google is teaching everyone. They are brilliant, they are smart, because in COVID-19, I discovered that those youth are very smart, because with Excellency Fawad, we did a lot of SDG and we did a lot of conference, and we really helped a lot of youth to participate with us to create a professional leader. We done it in different way. There is a girl with the need to be a leader for tomorrow. They need to empower themselves to empower others. Because when we go to small village, we empower one, be sure she will empower all the village. Because now the women's are everywhere. And the youth, they are everywhere, and they are very smart. They're following technology. They are following the big mentor, what they're doing, and copying that. They are protecting the environment, they are protecting each other, and they're connecting. So today we have to make girls, empowering them to be entrepreneur, to build for them small business, to let them live life with dignity, to do some achievement, and to be proud of themselves. The girls need sustainable development like today what we are doing, and they need to raise their voice. I'm not going to talk about negative part, which say discrimination, violence, of a lot of bad words. I don't need to rape and etc., and justice, because there is a people who can handle it. The law of life and law of God give us a right as missioners to give our voice to them and to listen to them. So to empower the girl, it's not only word and strategy we make, we have to achieve. We have to put that in solution. We have to really make the impact and make the difference. So I'm saying to all the youth, you are the future leader. You are the builder of a nation. You are our successions for the future. So today, you and only you can make difference. Wherever you are, no, we don't mind about your gender, but we mind about your mind. Set up mind. Find your matchmaker to make the home better, to make the world sustainable, to make your vision and your dream true. It's you, only you, the future. We are with you. If we are today here, it's because of you. And happy National Day, happy life, and you can make the world better. Thank you very much. If any question, I'm ready. I did not want to be long, because too much talking after, it doesn't have a value and meaning. Shortcut, our future is the youth, and we are here for you. Anything I can add? I'm always with you. Thank you to our great management for this anniversary. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Fawad. Thank you, Dr. Okika. And nice to be with you. Put our hand together for better life, better home, and for the future of the youth. Thank you. We love you.